do you all agree or disagree, like to the class? And I had got something wrong, and everyone put their hand up, disagree.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
that was real.
Uh-oh, the game in trouble. Started out small, now they paying me double. Yeah, you can drip check, baby, like mustard. Yeah.
Hey y'all, it's Jordan and
Lexi.
And we're gonna do a mukbang for you all, a sushi one. And we're gonna tell you all about cold calls, everything that we know so far. This is from Hanero Sushi. They put our rolls together?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want me to get a plate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, I got the California maki because the regular California roll like had fish eggs in it, so no. And then these are basically just fried dumplings. I can't see anything because it's so bright, the studio light.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if y'all can really see. And yes, I have my pajama pants on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we go to class.
Exactly. Well, this is not Lexi's first time on my channel. You all have met her before.
Yeah, I've been on before in like a vlog or something.
Yeah. If you always hear me saying I have one friend who lives in my building, I'm talking about Lexi. So again, I did an Instagram poll thing and I asked you all on YouTube as well to ask me like everything you want to know about cold calls. And we're going to share the stories about our first cold calls. So first, what is a cold call? I feel like, okay, there's two different ways because some people consider like if you're on panel a cold call, but I don't consider that a cold call.
I do.
I feel like, okay, I guess kind of because you don't know the question, but a cold call is basically like a random question the professor asks you. Sometimes they'll give you, well, we only have one professor that will give us notice if we're going to be on call, but usually for the most part, if it's a cold call, it's like they just randomly call on you and they literally talk to you like I'm being like, oh yeah, da da da, and yeah, Lexi, like they know me, or like it's just mid conversation. It's not like, okay, warning everyone, here comes the cold call. Like no, it's really like you got to pay attention.
Or sometimes like at the beginning of class, you'll kind of know who's on call. Our one professor will say like, okay, I'm gonna come to you, Miss Smith, and then I'm gonna go to you, like, and then like down the line like that. But for the most part, it's like kind of scary. They didn't even ask that yet, but yeah. It's scary.
But okay, so yeah, that's basically what a cold call is. And that's, in law school we use like the Socratic method, and that's what they, some teachers will use that as their teaching style. Yeah,
for like the whole thing, like no PowerPoints, no anything. You just have to learn from the Socratic method.
Yeah.
It's like really hard for me.
Okay, so how was your first one?
Alright, I'll start because I'm going to talk about two. Because my first one wasn't really a real cold call. So my first one was with a professor who like doesn't really...
Wait, am I supposed to use this one?
We can both use it. The first cold call was with a professor who doesn't like... She's kind of really laid back. So getting cold called in her class isn't like really intimidating. Just because like... She's really nice, conversational, like if you mess up, no one cares. Like she doesn't use the Socratic method every single class. She just uses it when she feels like it. But the first time, I was actually in the kitchen and I was like, because the class is like at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, it was.
You were in the kitchen?
No, I was back home. Home. So I wasn't here in Washington, D.C. I was back home in St. Louis. And so I was in the kitchen, like making a smoothie. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning where I'm at, like, and then something told me she's gonna call on you today. And so like, and I heard her start calling on people. So I like ran back to my room and she goes, Miss Smith, da 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 da. And I didn't even hear her, like I barely heard her. Like I knew she asked me something about the notes from the previous class. So I'm like, okay. And I'm like on my iPad, and because that was when I first started working on my outline. So I was like, should I go to my outline? And I was like, no, let me just go to the notes. Like it took me so long to pull up my notes that Jordan texted me the answer. She was like, this is the answer. Like, and then as soon as she texted me, like I said it because I found my notes. But like, yeah, I mean, and then she called me a couple other times that day, and it wasn't bad.
You did well though.
I mean, it was like I said, like her class isn't stressful, so like I kind of just was like, okay, here's an answer. And like my Wi-Fi cut out for part of my cold call because again I was at home and like my parents had just had the Wi-Fi scheduled to come the next day, like the people to come out and fix it. So I was going through it, my very first cold call. Yeah, you can do yours.
Okay, my first cold call, it was in contracts. And that's, I feel like, our most intense class. Like, she does not play.
Mine was in torts. I didn't say that.
Okay. Yeah, so, and
how do you like
literally, Oh yeah, I hope they're. I don't have plastic ones, but I'm just get a regular one.
Is it in here?
So basically, this was like early in the semester. Okay, this is like maybe our like second or third class. So it was definitely like the first week of school. And I'll never forget it because the night before I went out. Like my friends, we went on a boat ride. We were so lit on a Wednesday night, random, but we just were very lit. I didn't get back home until like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was at your apartment. We were just hanging out, and then I was like, hold on, let me just reread over contracts before class real quick, like, just in case. Just because, like, we know she's gonna call on people, but when I was reading the case, the contracts cases are so complicated, and especially, like, in the first few weeks, we're not really that familiar with that. So I was just like, Jesus, please, like, don't let her call on me, like, any other week but this week. Like, I was out all night, and this case was so complicated. Like, it was so complicated. And she called on me. I was like, I'm very expressive with my face. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, she called on someone else. And my name's at the end of the alphabet. She called on someone at the beginning of the alphabet. Then she called on me. I'm like, Lord. And this was like, okay, the contracts cases are really complicated. So when I read them, I also write stuff. I would also write it down. And this was like in the early semester, so I was writing in pencil. Do not do this. I was writing in lead pencil, just really light notes, because I didn't think I would have to know it for class. Big mistake. My writing was light. She was calling on me, and then this is before I had Quimby. So, and I was just like, and she like stopped the girl mid-fact. Mind you, I don't know I'm gonna get called on, so when she stops the girl mid-fact, I have to, I kind of tuned out, so I didn't really know where she stopped. I'm going in my notes and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't have that written down. And she was like, because this is just me trying to stall. She was like, okay, well, read us what you have written down.
No, what you said was, I can't read my notes.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm sorry, like, I just can't read my handwriting.
I almost turned my camera off when you said that. I was like, girl.
But that was like, I had spoken a little bit, but then literally I could not read my notes. Like, it just became a point where it was just chicken scratch. And when all this is happening, like, your heart is beating, and it just seems like you're on call forever. Like, it seems like time is frozen. Like, it's just frozen. So that was my first cold call. It was pretty intense, and like, I think the thing that traumatized me is she likes to say, do you all agree or disagree, like, to the class? And I had got something wrong, and everyone put their hand up, disagree. Yeah. I was like, oh,
that was rough.
shit.
That was
like,
rough.
Dang. I don't know, like, that was rough. Like, that was a pretty rough one. And then she ended up calling on me the next class. I've gotten called on in this class a lot, and I'm just like, she must love my last name or my
You're the last person on the roll. So she remembers you. That's how she raps every day. Miss. Okay, let's start crap. Oh, wait, I can't say your name.
I'll just edit it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm like,
yeah, seriously.
And when she called on me that day, I'm like, okay, does she have me on Instagram? Like, does she know?
No, because she ended up calling Jordan 3 days in a row. Like, not kidding.
Yeah,
and
like, there's a running joke in the class. Like, if anyone's going to get called on,
it's Jordan, which is crazy. So when I had my first cold call in contracts, which is like my real cold call. Hold on. So parched. Okay. So this was the big one. This is the one I've been waiting on.
Yeah, because she was like, oh, I'm so chill, Jordan. I don't have any motivation. Maybe I need a cold call to just give me some motivation.
That was me like the first few weeks of school. And I just knew I was going to get called on because every single week would go by. And it'd be like, didn't get called on, didn't get called on.
Mind you, I'm being called on.
And I was about to tweet. I made it through 6 weeks of law school without getting cold called. And then I was like, let me not tweet this because I'm going to jinx it. And then, lo and behold, I get cold called the next week. And it wasn't terrible because at the beginning, she called on the person before me. And that was the person who was going to bring the facts of the case and run through all of the case. And then she goes, Miss Smith, I'm coming to you next. So I knew I was on call. I remember praying. I'm like, Lord, please don't let me mess up this cold call. Please don't let me mess it up. And then, I'm not kidding you, right when I started praying, I got this notification on my phone from the Bible app. And it was a verse. It was a scripture. I don't even remember what scripture. And I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. Like, now I know you're about to have my back. Like, thank you, Lord. Like, we about to get through this. Like, and then she called on me and like, I don't know what it was, but I was calm. I think it's because I saw that verse. Like, I was so calm. I was like, yes, professor. Because, oh my gosh, this was a day when she was like kind of fed up with everybody in the class, because she called on actually 3 people before me, and they all gave their briefs, and she was like, no, that's not it. No, next person. No. And then she goes, Miss Smith, do you have your brief? And I was like, yes. Me in my head thinking, yeah, it's Quimby, but I'm gonna read it. Like, so, because everyone else was reading from the book. Like, if she called on me first, like, I would have like read from the book, and I would have been like, okay, done what everyone else did. But apparently she didn't want that. She wanted like to see that we put our facts into a separate brief. Like, she didn't want us to book brief, basically. So I read Quimby, and she was like, okay, we can work with that. And I was like, Lord.
Yeah, and she cuts people off. Like, she will cut you off. If she doesn't like how you're going, she's like, okay, next person. Or like just call on someone else. Yeah, I was really scared for you.
Yeah, and the rest of that class, like, it was okay. Like, I got some mild questions. Like, I pretty much got like her questions right. So she didn't, like, there were other people basically who messed up before me that day. So she like zeroed in on them. And like when she got to me, she was chill. So that was good.
How long should you talk for? Honestly, the less you say, the better, because they try to use your words against you. And I feel like they know in their head what you mean. Okay, I'm being general, but if you're in my section, you know the professor I'm talking about. Like, I feel like she knows what we mean, but she just wants to make sure that our words are exactly like what we're trying to say. So, and they can tell if it's fluff, and I feel like the class can too. So
yeah, I feel like she hones in though for a purpose, because that's how she teaches. Like, if one person just gave the answer one time, the class wouldn't learn anything. So she has to ask the same question multiple times in order for people to write it down. So.
Yeah, but I would say don't talk for too long. Like, honestly, a minute is kind of long.
Yeah, it just depends.
It depends.
Like,
yeah,
talk long if you just have to know your professor. Like, in our class, like, we can talk for a long time and she doesn't interrupt us. That probably means we're doing well. So talk until you finish your point. But if she cuts you off, then you need to keep it brief. Seriously.
Are they really like How It Seems and How to Get Away with Murder, standing up in class and everything? Well, we won't know. I don't know if like in real life people stand up in class, because you know we're on Zoom, so I don't want to say we'll never, hopefully, but like we don't know that experience. I don't think people would really stand up. If they did, wow.
I don't think people stand up. Like you said, we don't know, but I know in the law schools they have microphones.
What?
Yes.
Oh my god.
In the lecture halls where there's like a big row and then like one student microphone. So I feel like they would be like, can you speak? Clearly speak into your mic. That probably would be terrible.
No. Oh my gosh. Okay, that's better. And also, okay, I would say, but to me it is kind of like How to Get Away with Murder. Like when I first heard someone like brief a case, like read their case brief, I was like, oh my gosh, like look at them telling the facts and saying all. I was just like, wow, like they're really speaking it really well. I, knock on wood, I haven't really been asked to like read a brief and like go through all that. And that takes, I feel like, I don't know, I just need to work on my public speaking maybe, but I don't think I could really do it that clearly. Yeah. So people, they do it really well. Like they'll literally brief a case just like Michaela would in How to Get Away with Murder. Like people really kill it. I'm not one of those people.
And like if you aren't, that's fine. Just BS your way through.
Yes.
Like honestly.
Yeah, speaking of, what if you don't know the answer?
I'm gonna take this one. There's such a thing as like being prepared for class but not being prepared to speak in class. Like you read the case, you read everything, like maybe you took a little notes, like you know what you're kind of supposed to know if you weren't going to be put on the spot in class. So there are moments when you will get called on and you will completely forget everything. You'll be so nervous, you'll be flustered. Like even if you did what you were supposed to do, you got to come up with something. Like you have to come up with something. Like the biggest thing, I was gonna tell Jordan last week, like one of these professors are gonna catch me off guard and I'm gonna be like, I don't know. But like that's completely a joke, because you cannot say I don't know. I was about
to say that one day.
You cannot say I don't know in class. You cannot say, because if you say that, you're just giving your professor like, I'm gonna target this person.
I wonder what she would say if someone ever said I don't know.
She was, you know, what do you mean
you don't know?
No, you just have to say something. Even if what you say is wrong, just say something related. So like if you're talking about, if she asks you something about the court's reasoning and you don't know the answer, just say, well, the court said this about promissory estoppel. And she will be like, the boy, I wasn't at and shit.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, like, and then you just keep going through those motions until she gets the answer, until she moves on to another person.
I feel like I
That's
would
what you have
probably
to
say
do.
I don't know. I think I wouldn't just flat out say I don't know, but I would allude to that.
You
Like
can,
I would
some people say I'm not sure.
yeah, or say like I'm
but you
not
still have
sure,
to keep talking.
but maybe, yeah, just give a maybe. Just give a maybe, and even
Yeah.
if it's completely off.
Yeah.
But I actually got cold called the last class that we actually had, like a real class.
Mm-hmm.
I did not read this case. I told myself, you know, we barely get through these cases and contracts. I'm not gonna finish reading this. Like we're not gonna get there.
Yeah.
Then it's like we're flying through the first case. I'm like, oh, I'm texting the group me like, y'all, we need to stall this case because I did not read the next one. So they got my bag where I asked a question, try to slow her up a bit.
That's where you messed up.
Yeah, the next case, first of all, I tune out because I'm like, it's only like a few minutes left of class, and then I hear my last name, Miss da 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 da. We'll just say Miss Wish for this video, Miss Wish da da da. I'm like, I text the group chat like, I know you fucking lying, like the whole class knows I did not read this case. So I'm over here typing on Quimby, like,
And people were like raising their hand,
trying to help me. You know, they're nice. Like they really had my back because they knew I did not know a flying thing. So I go into Quimby and like the question she asked, honestly, I will say cold calling. I'll never forget it. Like I'm not gonna forget the Izadi case, and I'm not gonna forget this third element of promissory and
I forgot the cases and what I talked about and everything else.
Well, it's pretty grilled in me because it was kind of traumatic.
I can see that though.
Yeah, I just went in Quimby. Quimby is gonna be your Quimby. Have Google open and then text your friends.
I'm the type of person too where like I don't want to spend a lot of time doing briefs. It's hard for me to get myself to read, period. So I can't get myself to read and brief. So I book brief and then I use Quimby. And if I can't make it through a cold call with that, then oh well, because cold calls don't count for anything in your grade.
Yeah, that was one of the questions. Like, are they graded? And no.
No, cold calls are not graded. I mean, like, the reason most people want to do well on cold calls is to, one, not like upset their professor, and to not be like that person who didn't read, or like make their professor like grill them every class, or to like kind of impress their classmates. Like nobody wants to seem like that person who like messes up a cold call. But honestly, we're 1Ls. If you do, it's fine. Nobody really cares. I can't think in my head like, oh, that person really messed up a cold call. Like,
yeah, or like no, like she said, no one really cares. At least
no one
in our group.
Yeah,
we have to
no
say
one
this is all section specific. This is section 1 specific.
Yeah. Are we doing this video as to Howard Law or like in general?
Howard, we can only speak on Howard Law. That's all
I
we
mean, I know,
but
we
I feel like in
speak on it,
general,
but it is kind of general.
It is kind of general.
Yeah.
Can I record a cold call so they can see how it is live? No, I don't think I'm not allowed to.
What do you
record
mean?
in
Can you
class.
record it?
Like show it happening, but like no, one,
no, we're not allowed
to record in class. 2, when I hear someone cold calling, I'm expecting you could be next. Like once they start, that's when you need to be glued in and like really follow.
And
everything.
you wouldn't even think to turn your camera on because you'd be so scared trying to.
Yeah, because honestly, it'd probably be me. Like no. Has anyone ever answered their questions so well that they shocked the entire professor and class, or is everyone kind of at the same level?
Honestly, no. Ain't nobody shocking no professor that's been doing this. Like, a lot of our professors been
Like,
teaching
our
20
whole
plus
life.
years. Like, yeah, as long as we've been alive, they've been teaching. So you're not gonna shock them. Like, there'll be times when somebody would like do a brief so well, or like speak really well in the class, like in the group meet, will be like, oh, great job, like you really killed that. Like, but we kind of encourage everybody in our section, so even then it's hard.
Whenever someone gets called on, we're like, you got it, like all this. So I love that.
Like, all our classmates are really smart, so I think we impress each other on like a daily basis. Like everyone does well, like consistently. Ooh.
Amazing.
Everyone does like really well consistently. Like it's not even. I'm gonna eat these later.
Has anyone ever cried because of a cold call? Not during class. So
Not
far.
that we know of.
Not in our section. I really don't think so.
Not us.
But I honestly, I cried after the first time I got a cold call. I cried after.
You did.
But it wasn't. I mean, it was. I think it was just a lot of things.
It's
like,
because it was the
mental
first
breakdown.
2 weeks of school. Like we were breaking down the first 3-4 weeks of school anyway. So for her to get cold called like the second, third week, like of course you're gonna cry.
Week. And then I think it's just when she says, do you all agree or disagree? And you see all of them disagrees, you're kind of just sitting there like, well, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of rough, but it's okay. Like, you really get over it.
It's really, I feel like I wouldn't cry.
How do you prepare in advance? Do your notes have to be extensive? Honestly, I feel like you really can't prepare because you don't know what they're about to ask you. Like, especially in okay, in one of our classes, the professor will tell you if you're going to be on the panel. And when I was on the panel, I was so scared because this chapter was just so dense. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. And literally everything I prepared, that's not really what she asked. Like, sometimes it's not really the basic questions about the reading. It's like things outside of the question. Like, it's just like, I feel like they just do it to just keep you thinking, like keep you on your toes. Like,
my best advice for how to prepare, like, is basically just read through what you're supposed to read and like maybe look at a Quimby video or something like that. But the best thing you can do during a cold call is try not to blank. Is try to listen to what the professor is asking other people, because she's probably going to come to you and ask you next. Or either, like, you just have to keep on guard all class and like listen to what she says and then try to answer that way.
Yeah, I agree. And definitely before every class, I have the Quimby brief up. Every class.
Always.
Except for leg reg.
Yeah, that's no Quimby for that.
Yeah, but other than that, like contracts and torts, I have the Quimby brief up.
For the most part, your classes that you get cold called on, you'll probably be the most well prepared. Like, there's this one class we don't get called on at all. It's 100% voluntary, and that is probably my worst class. But
oh yeah, there was a question about that. It was like, how do you feel cold calls contributed to your education? Do they limit the experience by adding strenuous pressure or provide an opportunity to participate?
I think because we only have to focus on one class that uses the Socratic method, like, it hasn't like made our experience negative. Like, if every single class, like, there's another section.
I think if Civ Pro had cold calls, it would be
terrible. Like, there's another section where like their professors cold calling them in every single class, including Civ Pro. We have one class that consistently cold calls. The other class switched from panels to group work. Let me not say all this because some people gonna be mad at section 1. But basically, like, we're fine. It could definitely impact your experience and make it more
stressful, but there's really only one class that's that stressful.
Yeah.
And even then, it's really not that stressful. Like, she's not, like, the professor, even still, because first of all, we were getting it wrong a lot of the time at the beginning of the year. It was taking us so much time to get through one case. Like, it seemed like we did one case a week. Like, it was so slow. But now we're doing multiple cases a class.
No, I think it contributes to my stress. Like, I physically like get anxiety for contracts. Like,
but I feel like to me the class is boring, so that kind of lives it up a bit.
Yeah, but like, don't you feel like when you're about to go to contracts, I'm just like, can't breathe. Like, exactly. I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen today?
And I like stress read. And
then you get to class, and then like it's smooth. Yeah. Unless you get caught on that day. So.
I think I learn the most in classes that I'm not cold called on because I can't like. It's like I'm just too focused on the cold call. I'm focused on like if I'm gonna get called on versus like learning the material. So I kind of have to work like more. I have
twice as hard.
Yeah. And then provide an opportunity to participate. No, because it's without your consent. They just call on you. I think only one. I didn't know this, but apparently one of our classes said if it's a bad day, you can email them and let them know. But
contract said that.
Oh, she did.
I don't know if she said having a bad day, but she said if something happens.
Okay. Yeah. It's really not that bad. If we're making it, it's really not that bad. We probably just, I'm a complainer sometimes, so I can be dramatic.
Honestly, if you're like me and like you don't voluntarily talk in class, like you never did in undergrad, like that's just not your thing, it's terrible.
Okay, well overheat it.
I know.
Okay, it's gonna.
I be having to think like people from Howard actually gonna watch this.
You
That's
think?
why I be trying to like not.
I'm about to put that in the video.
Not say what I'm like, you know.
I'm keeping that in. I'm keeping that.
Wait, did it was on the camera?
Yes.
Oh my god. You catch me.
No, that's what I said. Like, it's a small school, so I don't post as much. Okay, this is gonna be our final thoughts on cold calls.
So Jordan was basically saying like, oh, it's not that bad. And I was saying it absolutely is. if you're a person like me who never talked in undergrad, like voluntarily, like you just don't like to talk in class, like it's really hard. And that was one of the things that like I was worried about in law school. Like, oh my God, I never talk. How am I gonna go from not talking to the Socratic method? But don't let that keep you from going to law school. Like, it is what it is.
Motivation.
I know. Me over here like getting all motivational. But no, just go for it, because it's not as bad as you think. Like, you'll get through it. It's fine. It's a part of it. It really does help you as a person overall, like your verbal skills. So
yeah,
it's not terrible.
It, like, honestly, in the moment you are kind of nervous. Like, I think my voice was probably shaking a little bit my first time, and you just kind of, there's like little ways to get around it. But the technical difficulties, or just start talking when you're on mute. That'll buy you a few seconds.
This is only gonna apply to Zoom law school. Like, we don't know how long that's gonna be, but yeah.
Yeah, or just act like you can't hear for a second or something.
Log off.
Oh my God.
You have to. And then email.
That's what she said. Oh my gosh, if I ever got a cold call and I didn't know, I would just leave the class.
Log off. Like, if she ever start hammering me, I'd probably just be like, all right, you know what? My internet, my Wi-Fi. Unplug your Wi-Fi so it looks like you're having a malfunction. Anything.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's just going to be depending on your professor. We've heard some crazy stories about professors going off on people. So just make sure you come to class prepared. And if you're not going to come to class prepared, get a Quimby subscription so that at least you'll have the brief for it. And get a friend. Like, if you don't know the answer, you can text them. Somebody. I don't know what they did in person.
I think in person it was easier for people to raise their hand and be like, ooh, I know the answer, call on me, like, and the attention can divert.
Yeah, but people raise their hand. Well, I guess the
raise your hand feature, that's so easy to ignore. But if it's 15 people in class, like, professor calling me, I know, you're not going to stay on the person that's about to cry because they don't know the answer. Like, you can move on. Like, it's not that deep. Like, so I feel like that's way better probably in person, but who knows?
Who knows?
We'll let you know next year.
But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Comment more video ideas that we could do for you all. Keep in mind, we're only 1Ls, so take everything we say with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
A bit, not even a grain, like literally. A pound of salt.
We're just 1Ls, half of 1L completed.
Yeah.
Basically. But, you know.
More than half, girl.
A little more than half. Yeah. Almost at final season.
We're like 75% done. So, yes, that's about it. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You want me to put your Instagram?
Sure.
Okay. Follow Lexi on Instagram. Yeah. And stay tuned.
Hit me up if you got any law school questions. I usually am nice.
And she's from St. Louis, so if anyone's from St. Louis.
I only claim STL though.
Okay.
The rest of the Midwest, cut it.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for watching, and yeah.
Bye.
Uh-oh, the game in trouble. Started out small, now they paying me double. Yeah, you can drip check, baby, like mustard. Yeah.